Hello friends, and welcome back to my Pokemon Black 2 Nuzlocke. It's been quite a few days since I last recorded any episodes for this, mainly because I was mentioning earlier that I was having some wrist pain, and that pain kind of kept getting worse over time. Still not too sure what caused it. Probably I was shoveling snow and I just happened to strain it. But I just went into the emergency room today, mainly because going to a walk-in clinic takes about the same amount of time in terms of wait, but there's no guarantee that you'll actually get everything done. So I decided to go to the emergency room early in the morning, waited about 3 hours, something like that. Yeah, about 3 hours, and got a doctor to see me and finally figure out what's wrong. So as I expected, nothing really too serious, no bone issues or anything, just a strain in the tendon for my thumb, which is why I was having such pains after I was playing both this and Hyper Light Drifter. I used the Xbox 360 controller for both, and my right thumb is constantly moving between all the buttons while I'm playing, so that was the main reason. So I've been taking a few days of break for both of those games just because it's been doing wonders for, well, actually it hasn't, but mainly just I didn't really want to make my injury any worse. Today I went in to the emergency room. They gave me some anti-inflammatories. They gave me a neat new splint, so I'm playing again, mainly because I feel pretty confident that my wrist won't be, or my thumb tendon won't be too strained with this splint on. I'm holding the controller in a more, like, in a weirder way this time, because the previous splint that I had, I bought it from like some drugstore. It wasn't really meant for your thumb in particular, so I could still move it fine, which is why I wasn't seeing any results. Like, I wasn't feeling any better even after wearing it for like a week, because the part that was injured was still moving around all the time. So yeah, that's pretty much what's been going down with me during this holiday season. Hope everyone else has been having a better time. Confused? Oh no, we don't like that. I never even heard of this move. This is like the special version of Swagger. It confuses your opponent, but it raises their special attack. I don't really see the purpose in that because it doesn't increase the amount of damage they take when they hurt themselves if you only raise their special attack. And in general, like, what if they break out and then they just hit you with an even stronger move? Not really worthwhile. So during the Christmas season, I have a few friends that I regularly play League of Legends with, and we did a whole Steam gift exchange. During the winter sale, everything's really cheap. Everyone bought each other quite a few gifts, and I actually got a lot of a lot of games that I really wanted to play, like the primary of which is Stardew Valley, mainly because all my friends have been raving about it for weeks on end now. I hear it's a really good time. I played maybe 5-6 hours of it in the last few days, and it's been great. Like, just crazy addicting for some reason. Like, I'm doing mundane tasks, just like watering plants and everything like that, and I'm no gardener in real life at all, but it just feels like it really tickles that part of your brain that gives you this sense of accomplishment, this sense of achievement. Like, it feels like, oh man, I actually worked hard this day. I made good use of my time. I used my energy efficiently. It's kind of like when you have a really productive day in real life. But I guess that's why it's so great. It gives you that feeling of accomplishment, even though you're not really doing too much, and it was very easy to accomplish. I got that. I got Hyper Light Drifter, as I mentioned earlier. Titan Souls, Shovel Knight. A lot of, like 2D, 16-bit, 32-bit, not 32-bit, right? 16-bit era sort of looking games. I'm really a big fan of that aesthetic. I really like well-done 2D, opposed to sloppily done 3D. Not sloppily done, just, I would prefer a well-done 2D game over a mediocrely done 3D game any day of the week, in terms of just aesthetic appeal, even. Which is why I felt like the Pokemon Black 2 had probably the best graphics that Pokemon has put out so far, because I actually think a lot of the 3D looking ones, especially in XY, like, it's a little bit better for Sun and Moon, but I always thought that the 3D ones looked a little bit funky. Like, the animation was not great. The animation here isn't great either, but especially the moves. Like, all the attacks animations are really, really weak. Like, they don't look very good at all. Whereas I think these animations are actually quite cool. Like Aerial Ace is really cool. Fake Out is the standard that it has always been, but yeah, like I think that the whole package in terms of like the background, the sprites, and the animation for all the attacks, I like the 2D version, the most recent 2D version, better than the most recent 3D version. But yeah, like Titan Souls especially was one that I actually forgot about for a long time. I saw a Let's Look At of it by a prominent YouTuber quite a few years ago, and I was really excited about the game. It's kind of like a Shadow of Colossus sort of game where you just only fight bosses, and each boss has like this gimmick, I suppose. Well, gimmick is a little bit too dismissive of a word to describe it, but basically like a certain method of fighting each boss, and you sort of have to piece that together on your own, and it's very like real-time action-y, that sort of thing, And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed whatever I saw of it, and it went on sale. It would cost $4 Canadian, so it's probably even cheaper in the States. Not really too sure if it's direct conversion or we get some sort of discount there. I think we actually do. I remember for League of Legends anyway, their special currency, it used to be the same price in America and in Canada, even though the Canadian peso has fallen quite far now. They eventually changed it so that the Canadian prices were a little bit more, so it'd be like 20 American dollars and like 25 Canadian dollars for the same amount. Or not 25, like 22 or something like that. Like just a small increase in price. But we still got the better end of the deal in terms of, like, if you were to directly convert how much American money it cost. Sorry, if you were directly to convert the American prices into Canadian, we still got the better end of the deal there. So I think Steam does a similar thing for unknown economic reasons. I'm not an economist by any means, so I have no idea about that. Okay, Winona's 29. Yeah, I'm hoping that this is going to be the last episode of the grind. We've been kind of stuck in this area for quite a long time now, like a ridiculous amount of time almost. And I'm getting sick of it. I'm sure you guys are getting sick of it too. I think once Zoroark and Bambino get to 35, that's where we're gonna cut it quits, and we'll just level up Cheryl and Winona on our own in different areas of the world. Because with EXP Sharon, I think like they'll get pretty high up. Like they're not going to be cheaters by any means. They're not going to be great, of course, but they're like Sandslash is already fully evolved, like Cheryl fully evolved Pokemon. So stat-wise, he's actually doing all right. Like he's already at least the same level as Baconator used to be, because Baconator had another tier to go. And once Winona evolves, I believe at like 31. I think it's 31 and 41 for Winona. Then she'll also be like quite the usable force. Like it definitely won't be something that you have to really put a lot of effort into making work anymore. Yeah. So I've been really enjoying playing all my new games. I played a lot of Stardew Valley. I played a little bit of Shovel Knight today while I was waiting in the emergency room. It's a lot harder than I expected. I think maybe just because I was playing on keyboard and mouse. I was actually considering whether or not to switch my setup to keyboard and mouse while I was unsure about, how my wrist was doing. I said thumb because now I know that it's the thumb. But I wasn't too sure how loud it'd be because I have a mechanical keyboard that's extremely noisy. Like it's very, very clicky, and when I've been playing games with my friends on Discord, they said that they could still hear my mouse clicks and keyboard clicks really clearly, even if my microphone was further away. But I just sounded quiet, like my voice just sounded quiet instead. So I thought I would just wait until I knew for sure what was going on and I felt comfortable playing on the controller again. I'm still gonna take it easy, and maybe I'm gonna switch the way I'm holding it right now, just because I became aware of it again. Yeah, this feels a little better. I'm clicking with my my ring finger, so it's not put too much strain on my thumb. I'm probably going to try and record some Hyperlight Drifter today as well, and that game requires a little bit more coordination, so we'll see how that feels, because it's a little bit more intense, but I think it should be okay. Yeah, I'm still considering whether or not I want to record any of these games as proper episodes. Probably not. I know that Binding of Isaac just had a new community mod released. these big fans of the game have been working on this mod for 3 or so years, and the quality of it is actually incredible. Like, I haven't played any myself because I haven't fully 100%ed the real game yet, but I've been looking at some footage, and it looks incredible. Anybody that hasn't seen, I'm sure most people have heard of The Binding of Isaac by now. I think it's probably the most famous indie game of all time, maybe. It's excellent. It's just great. It's basically a twin stick shooter Zelda-like game, and of course it's a roguelike. One of my favorite types of games. I like that super grindy, difficult feeling, like you have to, like, feeling like every accomplishment you had to go through a lot of hurdles to get through it. Basically, I'm a big fan of that sort of game. So I have a ton of hours logged, like 300-400 hours probably. And I'm planning on playing the new expansion once it comes out. I was considering whether or not I wanted to play this mod version, but I thought that I would spend, I'd play a few runs here and there, try and find the final item. Basically, I have everything unlocked, and I did everything that you need to do, but I need to pick up one specific item, which just appears randomly, and it's the rarest item in the game, so chances are not good. I'm going to just probably keep on grinding that out, and it'll appear eventually. Like, it's definitely not going to be something that will take forever. It's gonna come back to me eventually. I'm really excited to play Hyper Light Drifter. I had that itch to play for quite a long time now, just because it's a new game. I'm really excited about it. Of course, I'd want to play as soon as I could, and I haven't been able to because of my thumb. I was really quite scared that something was seriously wrong, because in the last few days it started swelling right near the tendon, and I started to actually worry. I tried to go into a walk-in clinic a few days ago, and I went in early. It was like a Thursday morning at 10 or something, and I figured maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours of wait. I went in, they told me it's going to be 2 hours, and since I live fairly close, I just went home for 2 hours, came back. I got there, and they're just like, another hour, and I just didn't feel like being jerked around like that, especially because I didn't even know what they would be able to do for me. Like, if it was a bone thing, they don't have an x-ray machine. I would have to go out and get one done on my own anyway. So I figured I would just go home and hope it heals, but it's just been getting worse, so finally bit the bullet today. It was still pretty convenient, as you'd imagine, on a stat holiday at 9 a.m. the day after Christmas. It wasn't very busy there at all, and even then it took 3 hours because I was one of the lowest priority patients in the entire hospital, or in the waiting room. Because I was walking around, I could talk fine, and it didn't seem like I was in serious pain. So, I understand, of course. There's a severe shortage of doctors everywhere in Canada, and of course Vancouver is no exception. So, you gotta be able to feel a little bit of empathy for all these workers. Like, I could see them running around doing stuff the entire time, and they do have to prioritize, because some people, they can't just wait there for 3 hours and be okay. Like, they might be coming in for dialysis or IV, and that's the sort of thing that you want to do quickly. You want to do sooner rather than later, But yeah, I had a pretty good holiday weekend. I spent New Year's Eve with my family and their friends, and New Year's Day with my girlfriend's family and friends. It was really fun. We didn't have the tradition. Well, actually, we did. On Christmas Eve, we had just like a random assortment of food. All my family's friends are Chinese, of course, because they're all immigrants. They all immigrated here together. And these are people they've been in contact for like 20 years. So we had very Chinese-ish cuisine on that day. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. It's the cooking of my motherland. And New Year's Day, similar sort of stuff, but there was turkey. But the turkey wasn't incredible. It was mediocre turkey. I find turkey is one of those things where if it isn't bitchin', it's kind of shitty, like you pretty much only eat the breast and the legs and stuff like that. Like, I'm sure there are people that eat the whole thing, but whenever you order turkey at a restaurant or whatever, they usually just give you like a huge slab of the breast meat. And turkey breast is like notoriously dry. Like, I remember a lot of my family friends never understood why Western culture puts so much emphasis on turkey, because they're just like, this is so much worse than chicken. Like, it's just a bigger chicken, which means it gets more dry when you bake it, and they just never understood. But you know, a good turkey, like the juicy turkey with gravy and everything, that's some quality business. Like I definitely a fan. I would take that any day of the week. But yeah, this was in the camp of mediocrity, apparent unfortunately. But even then, you know, not terrible. It's even mediocre turkey made for me any day. I would definitely take it. Yeah, I don't know how many people spend Christmas or spend the holidays with friends instead of family. It's usually like people that people whose families don't celebrate Christmas or who are like on really bad terms with them. I live at home still, so you know, I spend every day with family, so Christmas doesn't really feel like a big deal to me. It's sort of, it's like really whatever. I spend all the time with my family, so spending another day with the family is not really a huge deal to me. I don't know if this is like a common thing among people of my age. I'm 22 and I live at home, and pretty much everybody I know lives at home. And even people up until, you know, their 30s live at home still. Maybe it's just a matter of circumstance because of how expensive housing is in Vancouver, that it's just so impractical for you to move out unless you're willing to live with very little savings for quite some time. Because rent in Vancouver, even for somewhere where you're not in the actual city and you're sort of just in the, what we call the lower mainland, but in one of the suburb areas, it's still like incredibly expensive. Like an average apartment is probably, I have two friends living near transit, but far away from the city center. They pay 1,400 a month for a one bedroom apartment. And that's a pretty typical price. Like, it's a little bit on the pricey side, but it's definitely not outrageous. It's definitely like within reason. And if you're to share a room, like if you're just to rent out a room in a 2 bedroom apartment, that probably run you around $600 to $800, 600 being on the very cheap side. So it's just not very practical for anybody to do that, especially if you're a student going to school. Tuition here, thankfully, is much cheaper than in the States. It's around 5,000 a year at the best university in the area, and that's very typical. Like everywhere else, you can expect to pay maybe even half of that amount if you're going to a community college or just a college in general. They pay a lot less for sure. Okay, so Zoroark is 35. That probably means we're gonna stop using you now. I don't like Future Sight. Future Sight is kind of a well, is it shitty? It's better than Psybeam. We don't need Psybeam. Yeah, Future Shock is definitely not a quality move. I would not recommend it to anybody. I'll switch it out. Winona should evolve at this point. So we'll probably switch her out instead of Zoroark. We'll get Winona to fight the Tranquil and Bambino to continue to fight the Liepard. But yeah, tuition here, you know, fairly cheap, but living costs are just ridiculously expensive. And so most people here live at home. I think a lot of it is also partly that most people here are immigrated from Asia, and the culture there is oh, she doesn't evolve at 31. Okay, I was wrong. The culture there is predominantly that until you're married, you're pretty much expected to be living at home. It's kind of strange to not live at home unless you're married. Like, of course, people that move here, they experience a lot of Western culture and they understand it a lot more. So the rule isn't as hard or fast or anything like that. But there isn't this expectation that once you reach a certain age, you're supposed to move out. Because yeah, that's just not how it is. It's pretty much like you're always the child of the family until you're married, and then you're head of your own household. That's the point at which you stop becoming like the child of your family, in the traditional sense. Like whenever I go back to China, my cousin, he's 29 and he just recently moved out, and everyone was kind of shitting their pants about it because he's been dating his girlfriend for about 4 years, 5 years. They're definitely getting married. Like they've been talking about their marriage plans for a long time now, but it's hard to plan a wedding in China because all the venues are booked for like years in advance. So they've been talking about it for a long time, but they haven't actually gone around to it yet. And when they moved out, everyone in my family was kind of like, why are they? This is sort of irresponsible. It's almost scandalous that you're living with a woman that you're not married to, even though he's clearly of adult age. But a lot of it comes from the way that they perceive him, because he's the child of the family. One child policy. My family isn't very big on that side. He and I and my brother are the only children, and since me and my brother are in Canada, he's the only child on that side that is in close proximity. And I see the shit that they do for him. It's like crazy. He's like a grown-ass man. Like when we eat shrimp, they like peel the shrimp for him. And like they just do everything for him. Like when he pays his credit card bill off, if he doesn't have enough money in his account that month, they'll pay it for him like no problem. And that would be like insane here. And I still think that's kind of insane. And my mom says that that's insane too. And she tries to talk to her family about it and try and convince them that they're not really doing anything good for their son by babying him forever. But it's just such a hard habit to break out of. That's kind of how it's always been for them, and that's how my aunt and uncle and my mom were raised as well. They were babied until they got married, basically. And they turned out fine, but it was also during a time of a lot more hardship, so they grew up with oh shit, I pressed the wrong button. So they grew up in a time where you couldn't really even be spoiled, because there just wasn't. Oh my lord, are you serious? I suppose that's the first time that I missed it, so I shouldn't be too salty about it, but of course I'm still a little bit upset. Yeah, so as you saw there, if you miss jump kick, you take half your health in recoil. Oh my god, is this gonna be a 5-hit crit? As long as it doesn't crit me, I think I'm good. Okay, I'm good. Good job, Bambino. You did well not getting crit there. Yeah, so they grew up in a time where resources were scarce. So even if you were you were babied for a long time, being babied back then basically meant you didn't starve. Like you had enough food to be full every day. That was like you being babied, because your parents, they could only afford like food tickets, and there'd be a limited amount of food per family. And for growing teenage boys, like teenage boys especially, that means that you often were not extremely full all the time. Like you weren't hungry. You definitely weren't hungry, but you definitely didn't have this feeling of like being full every day that we get to grow up with now. So even if you were babied, it was more like you kind of just got the standard amount that a child growing up here or growing up these days would get. But that attitude of spoiling your child continued on, and in times of plenty, that often means that they just have way too much, like just so much excess everything. And so a lot of kids in China especially grow up very spoiled, because when there's only one child in the family and everybody wants to take care of you, I think it's a little bit inevitable that sort of happens. Okay, so what level are we at here? 31 on Winona, 35 Zoroark, 33 Bambino. Okay, so we're probably gonna do one more, unfortunately. I'm okay with that. It's already become accepted in my mind that you're just gonna have to continue with the grind eventually. So, as always, if you enjoyed the episode, I'd appreciate a like and comment. It would help me out a lot. And if you enjoyed, there will be another episode up tomorrow. See you then. Bye.